Coming up on today's episode of Freedom from Fire, we'll look at a fire program for students, talk with new Deputy Commissioner of Emergency Medical Services, and explore the role of EMS in the Philadelphia Fire Department. We've got a lot to share, so stay tuned as we begin Freedom from Fire. Hello, and welcome to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, Fire Commissioner Derek Sawyer. Freedom from Fire is here to bring you fire and life safety information and introduce you to our life safety partners. Later on today's episode, I'm going to sit down with the new Deputy Commissioner of Emergency Medical Services, Jeremiah Lassiter. We'll talk about his career, the role of EMS within the fire department, and what lies in the future for EMS. But first, I would like to talk to you about our Junior Fire Patrol program. The Junior Fire Patrol program has been around for 58 years. The Junior Fire Patrols are made up of elementary and middle school students. They conduct their own meetings, monitor school fire drills, and help promote fire safety education within the school, their homes, and community. The program is co-sponsored by the Philadelphia Fire Department and the University of Pennsylvania. Throughout the school year, junior fire patrols will take an oath and become members. They receive ID cards and hats. The junior fire patrols meet once a month for an hour to work on fire prevention projects. They participate in annual events such as the Septic Car Card, the Mayor's Proclamation, the tree tagging, and visit their local fire companies. Each junior fire patrol makes an activity book that documents what they have done throughout the school year. The program ends with a luncheon, which all junior fire patrols attend. And at the luncheon, the top 3 activity books will receive awards. If your school is interested in having a junior fire patrol, you should call the Philadelphia Fire Department's Fire Prevention Division at 215-686-1382. Now, today's show is going to mainly focus on the Philadelphia Fire Department's Emergency Medical Services Division. Before I explain how the Emergency Medical Services Department is set up and tell you what resources are available, let's look at what our reporters discovered. Caitlin Pages quizzed people on LaSalle's campus about emergency services.
Hi, we're your man-on-the-street correspondents, and we're here on main campus talking to students and faculty about emergency medical awareness.
So, is this true or false? Having an ambulance take you to the emergency room will automatically have you seen quicker by a doctor?
No. False.
False.
True, I guess.
True.
That's actually false.
False, really? How about that?
All patients are seen in order of priority, regardless if they are brought by an ambulance or not.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of settling, right?
Yeah, it's nice to know that.
True or false? A 911 operator can coach you through performing CPR or using an automated external defibrillator if someone is in cardiac arrest.
Yes, I'm gonna say yes. True.
True.
True. Okay, so that is true. A 911 operator can coach you through performing hands-only CPR and sometimes even direct you to the closest AED. Is it okay for you to take a friend or family member's medication prescription even if you have the same symptoms?
No.
True.
That's actually false. It's never okay to take any medication other than what was prescribed to you.
Okay.
Taking more than the recommended dose of over-the-counter medications like cold and flu medication is not dangerous. True or false?
False.
False.
No, false.
False.
Yes, you can overdose on any medication, even cold medication or cough syrup. And how many EMS calls did the Philadelphia Fire Department respond to last year? This is multiple choice. So A is 50,000, B 100,000, C 150,000, or D over 200,000.
I'm going to say D.
That is correct.
Really?
Yeah, the department responded to over 230,000 EMS calls in 2014.
My goodness.
And that is almost a call every 2 minutes.
Unbelievable. How did they do it?
Do you think it's true or false that the Philadelphia Fire Department is home to the busiest ambulance in the country?
Yeah, I think so.
No.
You don't think so?
That's false.
Do you have any idea of what you think the
Chicago.
busiest?
Maybe false. Because there's emergencies in other areas too. And they do calls as well.
Actually, you're wrong. It's true. Medic 8 is the busiest ambulance by call volume in the entire country.
Well, that is a shame.
This has been another Man on the Street correspondence. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Caitlin. It sounds like people were a bit surprised to learn how busy our medic units are. Let's take a moment to look at the structure of the Emergency Medical Service Division and see how it operates. As far as the EMS leadership, we have a deputy commissioner that handles all the EMS division. We have an executive chief who handles the operations, 6 battalion chiefs that work different shifts, 12 captains, 24 lieutenants that act as supervisors, and 197 paramedics. We also have 1 infection control officer that handles the infection control for the whole fire department. The Philadelphia Fire Department is currently in the process of conducting interviews for fire service EMTs. Currently, we have 50 medic units. The entire EMS division is broken up into 50 medical units, 36 of which are advanced life support units, often referred to as ALS units. We have 11 part-time ALS medic units, 1 ALS ambulance dedicated to the Philadelphia International Airport. We have 14 basic life support units. All units are full-time. Hospital specialties, which EMS involved in provide immediate care and transportation for all our citizens. Emergency Medical Services also has 8 trauma centers. Those hospitals include areas such as maternity, pediatric, psychiatric, burn centers, stroke centers, myocardial infarction, and S&T wave elevation. As you can see clearly, the EMS division is very busy. Last year, we had over 280,000 EMS responses by our medic units, over 180,000 transports to the hospitals. In order to give you a glimpse into the everyday life of our EMS units, we sent student producer Mark Wilson to one of our busiest medic units. Medic
Along
18.
with Engine 51 and Ladder 29, Medic 18 calls the Albany section of Philadelphia home. Medic 18 is one of the busiest medics in the city of Philadelphia, responding to over 8,000 medical calls in 2013. Medic 18 is also one of the newest apparatus in the Philadelphia EMS department. For paramedics like Simon Chernoff, each shift could bring somewhere between 12 and 15 calls in a 12-hour span.
We get a lot of seizures. We get code blues, meaning people die, and we have to resuscitate them. We have to take them back. We have drug overdoses, unfortunately. We have a lot of calls. We have shootings. We have stabbings. We have a lot to work with on a daily basis. We get the call. We sometimes get a specific information, what we're going for. Sometimes we get ambiguous information. We don't really know what we're dealing with. So when we get there, we make initial assessment. And based on that assessment, we see if the person is clutching their chest, they're sweaty, it's some kind of cardiac case. So we have to put them on a monitor. We have to get an IV access. We have to give them drugs.
Medic 18 is equipped to respond to a variety of medical emergencies. Medic Brian DeGeorge showed us some of this life-saving equipment Medic 18 uses.
This is the Philadelphia Fire Department standard first in bag. This is for ALS companies. Each company is different. Engines have their own, ladders have their own. This is the medic units. And we'll actually show first is like we have our trauma stuff, we have our intravenous, And then when you open it up further, we start getting more involved with more advanced life support, which is advanced airways. We have our medications, as you can see here, ranging from cardiac arrest to an overdose to a, diabetic. We have it all here.
New electronic lift stretchers are now in place with medics to help prevent back injuries to paramedics and EMTs.
As you see, it takes itself out by itself. Stops. Unfolds. Without me actually making any effort.
Despite the challenges they face in the field, both Chernoff and the George love their jobs.
Just the notion that you get a good feeling, when you actually do make a difference in somebody's life, like a positive in that person's life.
Regardless of the time of day or the nature of the emergency, Medic 18 and the rest of the Philadelphia Fire Department's ambulances will be there to serve those in need. For LaSalle TV, I'm Mark Wilson.
Thanks, Mark. I'm glad you were able to fit in those interviews before the paramedics got caught out on an emergency. We need to take a quick break, but when we return, I'm going to sit down with Deputy Commissioner of Emergency Medical Services, Jeremiah Lassiter. Please stay with us so we can show you how to stay safe and remain free from fire.
From our campus to the city of Philadelphia. Tune in and watch because we know you will love LaSalle TV.
There's something for everyone at LaSalle TV.
I watch LaSalle TV.
I watch LaSalle TV. The baseball team watches LaSalle TV.
I watch LaSalle TV.
I watch LaSalle TV.
Miro Televisión de LaSalle.
Vedo io la televisione LaSalle.
Я дивлюсь LaSalleську телевізію і дуже вона мене цікавить.
我睇電視.
And you can too. Follow us, like us, and watch us on LaSalle TV.
Hey fellow TV viewers, are you bored? Are you tired of the same old shows? Having thousands of channels to watch, but there's nothing there? Tired of sitting by yourself on your old mama's striped couch? Sitting in your room by yourself, watching someone who resembles your grandfather? Yeah, I know. I used to be just like you. By now, all hope is lost. You're flipping through channels, wondering what to watch. Boring, 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 boring. Wait, what's this? LaSalle TV. It's new, it's bold, it's great. It's not your ordinary TV.
In LaSalle University's Communication Department, students learn to think and do.
Every semester, communication students create and implement public relations plans for local nonprofit organizations.
And journalism students produce Germantown Beat, an online news source for the local community.
It's great that we can apply what we learn in the classroom in our community.
Philadelphia is the nation's 4th largest media market and has 4 major sports teams.
Being in a major media market allows us to gain great professional experience through internships and co-ops.
The Communication Center is home to the university's cable station.
LaSalle TV reaches over 350,000 homes in Philadelphia and airs mostly student-produced programming.
Our communication department is ranked in the top 10 in North America for relational communication research.
But keeping with the tradition of the De La Salle Christian Brothers, teaching students comes first.
Think, do with LaSalle Communication. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, Fire Commissioner Derek Sawyer. Before the break, I shared with you a lot of information about the EMS division. I'm proud to introduce today's guest, new Deputy Commissioner of EMS, or Emergency Medical Services, Jeremiah Lassiter. Welcome, Jeremiah.
Thank you for having me.
How you making out?
Very good so far.
So we go way back. So I want you to share with us a little bit about your career.
Well, I initially joined the fire department in fact, November the 6th of 1989, and on this Thursday it'll be 25 years for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I started off in the fire academy like all other cadets who came through, and went on to serve in North Philadelphia and South Philadelphia, moved up to the ranks of lieutenant, served as a captain of EMS administration, did investigative complaints, got promoted to fire service paramedic chief, and served as EMS field operations chief. And I was asked to be the department's special investigation officer. I did that job for 3 years. And I was fortunate enough to come out #1 on the EMS paramedic deputy chief's list.
Great.
And eventually I was appointed to deputy commissioner of EMS at the end of August of this year.
Congratulations. So there's a lot going on in EMS. Share with the audience some information about the new medical priority dispatch system.
Well, the medical priority dispatch system, what it does is it allows the call takers from the Fire Communication Center to ask some specific questions from callers and be able to decide what resource to dispatch for their need. What it enable us to do is to send the right resource to the right patient in the right amount of time. For instance, we may have someone with a low acuity call with a simple ankle injury, and we would decide to send a basic unit with no lights and sirens on a code response. It'd be a little extended, but it's the right thing to do, and not necessarily put people in jeopardy for lights and sirens used for a low acuity call.
So you were a paramedic, right? You started off as a paramedic. Tell me how this priority dispatch is going to help our paramedics.
Well, what it do for paramedics is basically try to make sure that paramedics are going on more high acuity calls, such as heart attacks, cardiac arrest, some traumatic injuries, somebody with shortness of breath, and then try to direct some of those low acuity calls to the basic units.
Right.
And it could be a cold response, or it could be a basic unit that's going to respond with lights and sirens, but it's a lower level of emergency than a paramedic needs to provide that life safety care.
So you talked about responding to calls. What type of emergencies do our paramedics or our EMS units, whether they're ALS or BLS, what type of emergencies do they normally respond to?
Well, one of the top emergency call is a sick unknown, and probably it is sick unknown because if you ever had a chance to listen in at the Fire Communication Center, some people get really frustrated about the questions, and they just say, send a medic unit.
Right.
And so it becomes a sick unknown. That becomes an ALS call because of the unknown medical emergency. Some of the other calls we go on are motor vehicle accidents, drownings, chest pains, cardiac arrest, shortness of breath, falls. We also have calls for people who simply have an appointment.
Right.
And they somewhat become an abuser of 911 because that call needs to be directed to some alternative means of transportation and a way of processing. That's something that we're looking forward to working out in the future.
So we had a campaign a while back, 911 is for emergencies. So explain some of those calls where they shouldn't call 911.
Well, for someone who simply ran out of a medication and they simply need a prescription to be filled, for someone who has an appointment at a hospital who decides to utilize 911 instead of a taxi service or paratransit or some other alternative means, a low acuity call for a cold with no chest pains, no real life-threatening emergencies.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the mobile integrated healthcare system.
Well, one of the good things about the Affordable Care Act that recently passed is it's given EMS an opportunity to look at expanding and integrating into the overall healthcare system in the community. we look forward in the future to trying to provide some additional services to our citizens, such as not just responding to 911 calls for emergencies, but being proactive, doing some preventative care, some monitoring for patients who were recently discharged from the hospitals, being able to respond to a citizen's need, and they may not need 911 to be transported, but we need to be the navigator to direct them to where they need. So you're looking at getting the right patient in the right setting at the right time. For instance, we arrive on scene and it's a chronic medical emergency, not a medical emergency, but for a chronic medical issue, and that person simply needs follow-up at her doctor's office or some other facility. And with mobile integrated healthcare, we can actually be a part of the process to make sure they get to the right place. It's not necessarily a 911 transport in a medic unit to a hospital.
Great. So I know that a lot of our paramedics have just finished some training. It's called RAMS training. A lot of them like that training. So tell us a little bit about the RAMS training.
Our RAMS is our Rapid Assessment Medical Teams, and it was really developed as a result of some of the increase of active shooter incidents in schools, unfortunately, malls, or at the workplace. What that allows us to do is all of our medics, paramedics, and EMS officers have been trained to utilize special equipment such as some ballistic protective vests, some equipment to quickly triage patients and provide emergency medical care. And we work in conjunction and under the protection of the Philadelphia Police as a team, one unit, to be able to go in. In the past, a lot of people have died because medical care was delayed because they wanted to wait to ensure that they had secured the shooter. Right. So what this gives us an opportunity to do is to get in, be able to assess people, stop the bleeding, take care of airway management and some breathing issues to give them a chance to survive.
So being part of this RAMS team, isn't the police department involved? What's the role of the police department?
Yes, we work in conjunction with the police, and pretty much it's a team effort. The police would send in an advance team to go looking for, try to locate the shooter. And then subsequent to, after that, a four-man police team, as well as 4 members of the paramedics and EMS officer, would go in as a team to survey the area for victims and provide medical treatment and be able to extract them so they can be transported to a medical facility.
Great. So you're the new Deputy Commissioner of Emergency Medical Services. I know that that came along with building out the EMS system a little bit. Tell us about how that EMS structure has been built out and some of the roles of the new positions.
Prior to May of 2014 this year, we had 2 supervisors 24 hours a day. With this build out that occurred in May, we were able to add an additional 3 supervisors 24 hours. So we have 4 lieutenants broken out into divisions all over the city, geographical areas, as well as a captain who supervises them and a EMS operations chief. That provides a better ratio of supervisor to medic unit for us. It also gives us more opportunities to interact with our paramedics, with hospitals, and be more visible out on the scene. It also allows the new EMS supervisors not only to be a supervisor, but also to be dispatched on all cardiac arrests and provide medical assistance if needed so by a ALS unit or a BLS unit.
Great.
And so it actually is enabling us to enhance our services and make it more efficient for all the citizens who use it.
So before we wrap up, we're about to hire a new classification of employee. I believe they're fire service EMTs. Explain that to us a little bit.
Well, the fire department, every day we utilize paramedics and firefighter EMTs to staff the units. We're somewhat short on paramedics, and we decided to go with fire service emergency medical technicians to supplement the care and to partner up with our existing paramedics to provide ALS level care. What these EMTs are going to do is allow us to expand our EMS resources by utilizing, being able to appropriate more paramedics and more units to different hours. And we'll be able to provide more coverage to the citizens of Philadelphia 24 hours a day. For instance, we'll be able to take some out 12-hour units and perhaps make them 24 hours. We're also looking at data to suggest where we need to increase coverage, as well as where we need to take other actions to ensure that citizens get proper coverage.
Great. So I want to thank you for joining us today on Freedom from Fire. Thanks for being our special guest. But before we go, I was hoping that you would do what most of my guests do, is take the fire safety pledge.
Okay, I'm ready.
You ready for it?
Yes, sir.
Let's get that right hand up. You ready?
Yes.
I love my family.
I love my family.
And I'm responsible for their safety.
And I'm responsible for their safety.
Therefore, I pledge the following.
Therefore, I pledge the following.
I pledge to have at least one working smoke alarm on each level of my home.
I pledge to have at least one working smoke alarm on each level of my home.
I pledge to test my alarms as recommended and replace all alarms with new lithium battery powered alarms when needed.
I pledge to test all of my alarms and replace them with all new lithium powered battery alarms when needed.
I pledge that every family member will sleep with their bedroom door closed.
I pledge to have every family member sleep with their bedroom door closed.
I pledge to develop and practice a home escape plan.
I pledge to develop and practice a home escape plan.
I pledge that if I cannot afford smoke alarms,
I pledge that if I cannot afford smoke alarms,
I will call the non-emergency number 311.
I will call the non-emergency number 311.
Or visit www.phila.gov
/311.
All of this I do solemnly pledge.
All of this I do solemnly pledge.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
for being on the show.
Thank you.
Before we go, I want to remind the citizens of Philadelphia to continue to change your clock, change your smoke alarm. We just had that program last week with the change of time. If you have not yet done so, make sure you have a working 10-year lithium-powered battery smoke alarm on every level of your home. If you don't have any smoke alarms, or if you have an old 9-volt battery smoke alarm, you should call 311, the non-emergency number. If you call 311 and put your name, address, and phone number, supply that, we'll come out and install that smoke alarm for you for free. I would like to once again thank Deputy Commissioner of Emergency Medical Services, Jeremiah Lassiter, for joining us today. I also want to thank you for tuning in and watching Freedom from Fire. Remember, if you would like to find out more about LaSalle TV, you can check out our social media sites. And if you are interested in learning about the Philadelphia Fire Department, visit our Facebook, Twitter, and web pages. So until next time, remember, fire is everyone's fight. Stay safe and remain free from fire.